Back in 2019, I wrote an article on Medium called 12 Ways the World Will Change When Everyone Works Remotely. And in that article, I made 12 predictions, most of which have already come to pass. I'll link to the article below. But what I want to focus on in this video is number 6. And this is the balance of power shifting from employer to employee. I knew that once people had a taste of working remotely, they would never want to go back. There have been studies going back many years before the pandemic showing that up to 99% of people who try working from home or try working remotely don't want to go back to their traditional 9 to 5. This was always going to happen. We've had the means to be able to work from home or work from anywhere for decades now. The reason that we didn't do it was simply that global society was following the path of least resistance, the status quo, and the people at the top weren't interested in relinquishing control of this 9 to 5 model. As we've learned in trickle-down economics, trickle-down change doesn't really work either. Remote work was never going to be adopted by a top-down approach. It was always going to come as a push from the bottom, from the working class. This remote work shift is more of a revolution than anything else. And what we're seeing with the Great Resignation is people of all ages, all backgrounds, all nationalities, in all industries realizing that they've been had, that they really never did have to work in an office, that it's always been possible to do knowledge work from anywhere, and they're realizing their power. So what are the implications of this shift? Well, the first thing and the most immediate pressing problem for employers is being able to incentivize employees to come back to the office or to work for less than they are worth. In the article, I quoted research that showed that workplace flexibility was the most valued perk among employees, and this was before the pandemic. One web developer that I quoted said that he didn't see flexible work as a perk, he saw it as a requirement. And now millions and millions of people feel the same way. More than just a job perk, flexible work is becoming a labor rights issue. And there's no reason for companies to force employees to work from an office when they can do their work from anywhere. It would have taken decades for CEOs and managers to voluntarily begin providing flexible work opportunities to their employees. But because of the situation that we're in, employees can now demand it, or they can go somewhere else, or they can leave that career path and that corporate ladder altogether. So as people have been working from home, working on their side hustles, struggling to get by during the pandemic, they've realized that they can work the same amount of hours or less and earn the same amount of money by selling their services directly on the open market. It's not about just finding another job. It's about evaluating if you want a job to begin with, or if you just want to work for yourself, and what the tangible and intangible value is of your perks and benefits and compensation package. And for a lot of people, the freedom to work from anywhere is priceless. And so my main message, my main takeaway for you here today is that if you can sit and overcome the discomfort, the fear, and the uncertainty surrounding the changes and disruptions to the world as we know it, you can be one of the early adopters in the location independent movement. Being a digital nomad, doing whatever you want for work, having 23 different income streams, living wherever, traveling wherever, this is going to be just as accepted and just as traditional and mainstream of an option as becoming a doctor or becoming a police officer. But the bottom line is that the entire workforce right now should be empowered to make the decision that works for you, to set your terms with your potential employer, to not be afraid to walk away if you don't get what you want. because we are just at the beginning of a global race and competition for talent, and it's not going away anytime soon. Now, yes, this does also mean that you will have to compete for jobs with equally skilled workers in other countries. That's a topic for another video. But right here, right now, as you are reading the headlines and the manic news reports about the Great Resignation, know that this is all in your best interest. Even if you are a small business or a startup or some other employer, this means that you have access to a greater job market, more affordable skilled labor from other places, and it's nothing to be afraid of. So if you're one of the employees who's quitting your job, take an inventory. Decide what are the skills that you like doing. What is it that you want to do to earn money in the world? This is the natural way of life. People have always worked for themselves. People have always worked from home. Things are just coming full circle where now we have the freedom, the technology, the resources, the communication, and the tools to support ourselves and make a living from anywhere in the world. This is the permissionless economy. We give ourselves permission to take action. You give yourself permission to start a YouTube channel, to start a blog, to start a podcast, build a website. Forget about what you did before. Forget about the sunk costs. If you were starting from day zero, what would you want to do? Who would you want to be? Who would you want to help? Who would you want to serve? What would you want to create? And know that if you've ever made $1 in your life, if you've ever had a job in your life, that you are fully capable of getting another one or working for yourself. And for the massive companies that are having a hard time incentivizing workers to come back, it's going to be an uphill battle because it's going to be very hard to compete with the alternatives that people have today. If you are a decision maker at your company, the faster you act to expand job benefits, to raise salaries, to add perks that you've never added before, the faster you are going to attract and the longer you are going to retain good talent. In my article 2 years ago, I wrote that brick and mortar companies would find it very difficult, if not impossible, to compete with remote first companies on innovation, on overhead costs, on hiring, pretty much every functional area of business. Companies were already hiring remote across industries, and the first people to leave the office were the knowledge workers. As a result, a company's growth, a company's success, and a company's profit margins were no longer correlated with the size of their office space or even the number of employees they had on payroll. Things have changed forever, but it's a good thing. Employers, employees, and independent contractors alike can all benefit from what's happening right now. This is not a zero-sum change. This is a net positive impact to humanity, save the whole pandemic part. The sooner everybody adopts this change and embraces this model, the better it's going to be for your bottom line and also your happiness and contentment. No one wants to go back to the normal of commuting 2 to 4 hours a day to get to the office. Everybody just wants to live life on their terms, make a good living, contribute to something of value, something bigger than themselves, and connect with other people and have fun. There's no reason why everyone in the world shouldn't be able to make a livable wage while working where they want. We have the technology to support it. So if you've ever regretted the career path that you took or even what you studied and majored in university and those student loans that you took on, consider this a fresh start. Disruption is the best time for change, and you should unapologetically finally pursue what it is that you've always wanted to do, or even things that you didn't know you wanted to do. Worst case scenario, and this is something I've been telling myself for 20 years now, you can always go back home, you could go back to normal, and you can get a regular job. But chances are 99% of you will keep going. After having lived life as a location-independent, remote entrepreneur, solopreneur, I cannot fathom the idea of ever going into a traditional 9-to-5 cubicle. So if that sounds good to you, let's do this. Seize the day, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and welcome to the future.
Tell you, I love your videos.
You do?
They're really good, yeah.
I love your blog posts. Your 42, what was it, like 42 ways?
40 things only digital nomads would understand.